Somebody paying for your?
Oh, well,
Appreciate being here.
Yeah, well, I'm donating it tonight. We have that we're negotiating a contract. I think our fee is it's going to be $11,000. That's basically a 6-month project for us. The boss, Betty, is a great negotiator. She got us to whittle that thing down by 15%. And my boss was most generous in that, by the way, Betty. I don't know if I told you that or not.
I was pleased. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that much
Yeah.
down.
So, well, I had suggested a figure and he tripled the figure, so we owe it to him. So, but anyway, that's what.
It's my buddy.
Fortunately, I live in Rockport, and so that makes it a lot more feasible. The company is in Houston, Southwest Museum Services in Houston. Just a quick word about the company. Those of you, our Southwest Museum Services has been in business 20 years. We are a design-build company. We design exhibits and we build exhibits. And just to name some that we've done, the Nimitz Museum in Fredericksburg, we did the Bush Gallery there. We did the Model Aircraft Museum in Schulenburg, if you've ever been up that way to see that. We did the LaSalle exhibits at Rockport and the other museums that are telling that LaSalle Odyssey, except the Corpus Christi, we did not build their museums. And let's see, one of the things we're doing, a little tie me up this weekend, we've been invited to submit our credentials for the new Bush Library exhibits up at SAU. So we've been around a while, and we're one of the major firms in the state. We do business all over the nation and overseas, and it's a lot of fun. Any other questions?
And I think that adds some real seriousness to this, to have your company be a part of that, to be a part of this. And yes, it adds the credibility and credentials. And thank you for donating your time tonight. Thank you. We would like for you, if you will take a moment to give us an evaluation of this time that you spent tonight, because you've been here with us for 2 hours and we appreciate it. And any suggestions you would have for future meetings together as a group. And we thank you for coming. And if you'll just leave this on the table with the other information that we've gathered, we appreciate it.
Go to pants outside. You want to hear me?
Yeah.
I would like to ask that everybody be sure to leave your email address tonight, because we're going to have our first newsletter out very soon, and we want to be able to email as many as we can, and therefore we won't have to use as much of our bulk mail.
Right. So please leave your email address. And as in closing, Betty handed me a bit of trivia to share with you. Texas is the #2 state visited by heritage travelers. Anybody want to guess what number 1 is?
California.
Yes, California. And New York is number 3. Texas is in between California and New York.
California.
What is And the characteristics of heritage tourists compared to other tourists are they're slightly older, 48 versus 46. They're 1/3 of them are 55 or older. They're more likely to have a post-high school education, and they tend to have a higher household income.
Heritage travel?
Yes.
Well, and that's just going to explode with the baby boomers coming of age too. There's this huge segment of the population that's now entering the 55 plus age, or 60 plus actually.
And they'll be headed to our museum.
Yeah. My sister was born at 26, so I always joke where the baby boom generation.
And the business in town would be happy to know that they spend more per trip than other travelers. They spend more per trip. And more per day, obviously.
You said they don't spend more than
Well, the fish and
But they
they
might.
don't local history museum. They did that, they call it the bronze contest. So, I'm a member of
More than you get per day, or so much. I just heard over
I fished here about 40, lived in Portland about 24, 25 years. So I've been around here a little bit. I manage environmental for an engineering company. And, you know,
Mr. Spanny Gibbs owned that property, the man across the street. And he said as long as the boatman would operate out of that, then that was fine. It was the boatman's property. But whenever the boatman ceased to own it or operate it, then it reverted back to him. Now that's the word that I got.
I wasn't here, Charlie.
Yeah.
You know,
What we need to
This,
know is
what I
when-
have is a deed
after
for
they,
it.
the boatman, when the city got the
Got
deed
it
to
over.
it. Yeah.
1948. Is the deed is dated and your name is on it.
Well, see, this is what I didn't know. I couldn't find any records.
Yeah,
This
this-
is what was in all
this-
this stuff.
This was a deed from, and I don't have my glasses, but from 1948, and it said that there was the following named members of that association, known as the Port Aransas Community Center, and all members have been since its organization. Only members have said, or I haven't read this before, so there's all these names listed here
Yeah.
And the
that
signatures.
apparently deeded were part of this community church, right?
Well, the community church,
Port Aransas.
there are actually two deeds here. This one is from the community church,
Okay.
and it's signed by Mrs. Ellis and Mrs. Boujan and Mabel Farley. Bouillon, I'm sorry.
That church property.
That was that whole block was church property.
Yeah.
And they sold it to this group called the Port Aransas Community Center, a benevolent organization. And then it lists all the people.
Who sold it?
The church sold it to
The
them
church sold it.
for $1.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
And
the church sold to this
benevolent
community,
organization.
right? This community center organization, and
And
then those names.
here
Here's
are
the guys.
names.
Here's the guys that were called part of this community center
That
organization,
signed the deed.
and it's Hurst, Crown, John Molina, J.E. Matthews, Olson, Jones, Smith, Moore, Farley, yourself's on here, Dreyer, Tarrant, Studeman, Richardson, Nettleton, Reed, Matthews, Ted Matthews, Woodruff, McMullen, McCauley, Hamilton, Gillespie, Frank Gibbs,
Yeah.
Belcher, Clark, Woody Owsley, Farrell, Dreyer, and Gillespie. Of course, I know a lot of those. The majority of those guys were all boatmen too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that correct?
True, but it never was stipulated to us that was a contract with the church.
Well, the church apparently was given or bought that piece of land. That's
Yeah.
the way I heard the story prior to this.
Yeah.
And then this deeded it
To the city.
it deeded it to this association,
Yeah,
this
well,
community association, which is essentially made up of mostly boatmen.
Yeah.
So it came from this church group to this Port Aransas Community Center group, and which is all these guys.
Yeah.
And then there's another deed.
Then they deeded it here to the city, and these are all their signatures. And there's here, this is upside down.
First time I've seen this too. So that's what we're trying to figure out.
This is the final. And this is all I had to go by. Was this, because I wasn't here then, and I'm relatively
That's
new,
what
like
I've
10
been trying to
years.
find out, and when I call City Hall, well, we don't know what you're talking about, you know?
It's in the it's
Yeah.
from the courthouse.
Yeah.
It has a
Yeah,
a
but they
deed
told me, but we
number.
don't know what you're talking about, and so they wouldn't research it, you know? So,
Well,
Yeah. So apparently, a lot of guys that were in the boatmen, and probably some other folks,
that pitched in.
got this group called formed this group called the Port Aransas Community Center, and they're the ones that had control of the building, and then they conveyed it to the city of Port Aransas.
now what year was that?
1948.
1948? Well, the
48 or
building was
49.
built in 48, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
After the building was built.
Built in 48, and it was, all of it was transferred in June the 14th of 49. But now, and my signature is on here. But They did not tell me that that's what it was.
Probably some of these things just went over everybody's
Well,
head because, I mean, they were
you
all
know-
fishermen, they weren't lawyers, you know.
Sometimes there's a board of directors of something and they do it all and they get all the legal papers
but
taken
let me-
care of and nobody else ever really does know.
Let me explain something. That this is just a fine detail.
Yeah.
The main thing here, and we're going to get some of this all straight and how the boatman relates to this group.
Yeah.
But the main good thing about all this is that there's now a chance for the boatman to benefit by getting involved with this historical society in the city and having this new museum that's now going to be still the community center, but also the Mercer House is now going to be this museum that's going to do what the boatmen have always wanted done, and that's to have some way of a better memorial. Part of the story, part of the history would be a better memorial to the boatmen.
True memorial.
And all the people with the historical
I can
group.
tell you this, that we used to have books after books after books. Part of them kept by this lady right here. And when it was turned over to the city,
It's me.
this building down
Must
there
be
that
not
they're
on,
in now
maybe.
was a
Or
6
maybe it
and
shouldn't be because the
They
batteries
took
go
all of
on
these
forever.
books
But I've got another one.
put them down there
Says it's recorded.
on the floor.
I'm looking for the picture.
Everywhere else, the pictures were ruined. All the captions of some of the tournaments were ruined. These ladies that worked their heads off getting all that stuff together, and in the process, that was when we took the thing back from the city. We took it back from the city and started running it ourselves again.
Do you know about what year that was?
I'm not offhand. But they had run our bank account down to the point to where they had $1,800 in the bank.
That the city did.
The city, Barney Farley, had run it down to the point to where our bank account only had about $1,800 in it. That's when we took it over, because we did all the work putting that thing, all these tournaments on.
Building it. That's what I had always heard, that you
Right.
had built the house and that
Right.
you'd started
But
the
see, when the
tournament.
city had it, we were out of it. We couldn't do nothing. They done all of it. Understand? And it went down the drain. So then whenever we took it back, now, I don't know, it's got several $1,000s in its pocket. A lot of it due to the fact that where my wife and my sisters and all of my friends got in there and fixed up all of these fish patties. Jane Swanson, I've seen her with tubs full of these little fish balls, kingfish balls made up, and she'd cook them up there and they'd go on the tables, out to eat. Then that was when it started coming back.
Well, when was that?
And that was probably sometime after 48, 49.
Oh, it was well after.
Because
It
the
was
city,
well after.
you'd
In
given
the-
it,
in
if
the-
I understood what you
it was-
said,
In the
you gave
50s?
it back
Well,
to the
obviously
city.
in the 50s, if it was
And
well
then something
after.
happened, the city wasn't taking care of it
Oh, no.
at
No, they
that
sure
time.
weren't.
And then y'all kind of started taking,
That's the reason why I'm asking, how did the city get control of that property?
because of the only legal documents that are present right now are legal documents that show the city owning it.
Yeah.
And some of these other issues you're talking about,
There's
there's
no
no
record.
record of that
Well,
legally.
naturally, see, because all of it went to pot up there in that building. All the records.
And the city thinks they own it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's what George
Yeah.
got rid of, all that part of the records.
I mean,
Now, I have
the
some.
city records indicate that they own
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
well, all of the.
I'd like you to see those books at the library, and anytime call me,
I
I'll meet you,
will.
because I won't let
It
anybody
won't
see
be
it.
next week, but
And
Well,
we're gonna,
soon.
here's the deal. Here's what we're trying to do to keep everything as friendly as possible.
don't want us to.
We're gonna try to understand that history, but what's happening now is almost doesn't matter who owns it,
That's true.
because now we've got a new group in the boatman and we're trying to get them together. See, I haven't even explained all this to the boatman yet. But we're now trying to get this new group, the historical people, together with the boatmen to put the city to task and now make this a nicer place because they got some money. Maybe we get some of the boatmen's money and try to make this a museum.
And we want
And
to
it'll
get it
still be a-
endowed so that it will always have money, that it will live off its.
The boatmen wanted to have nicer memorials there and were poo-pooed on that years ago.
Yeah.
They wanted to put the Hall of Famer pictures up on the wall and they were poo-pooed about that. But every time I talk about this with the historical people, they say that's a great idea. And so that's the kind of, we think now there's this new way of getting everybody together. But we still got to get the history straight a little bit too, but we'll kind of we'll maybe put that in the small print.
Well, and, you know, it's quite possible there was a period when Port Aransas was a sort of.
Of course, Port Aransas almost went under for a while.
That's what I
If it
mean.
hadn't
Everything
been-
was pretty rocky
If
for
it
a
hadn't been
while.
for the boatmen holding it together, these fishing terms, and that's all it was. Because the gambling was gone, the girls were gone, everything was gone.
It was bad times. It was a big swamp.
And the Port Aransas boatmen kept this city going, didn't they?
You know, I'm no expert on the history, but I've studied it pretty carefully, and I know that there was one crisis after another, and something wiped out the cattle, and something wiped out this, and pretty soon there was nothing left but sport fishing, and sport fishing was growing,
That's right.
and the sport fishing lifted everything else along with it.
We
And
don't-
that's the story we want to tell, is the early story of the
And
ups and
he's
downs
one of the-
and the hardships of living here.
He's one of
and
the
then
only
who
people.
rescued it?
Yeah, he's one of the only people living that was there then.
Well, you know, I don't have all my notes, but it was I think around 1954, 55 when it became the Deep Sea Roundup tournament. Period.
Yeah.
It used to be called the Tarpon Rodeo.
Yeah.
Then there was a period of time in there where it was called the Tarpon Rodeo and Deep Sea Roundup. Is that
And then
correct?
the tarpon
I'll tell you
went away.
exactly when it was.
And then at some point it became the Deep Sea Roundup, right around 54, 55. Totally.
The Tarpon Rodeo and the Deep Sea Roundup from 1954 to 1958. After 58,
I took one time. You know what the first question they asked me was? They said, "Have you ever violated the Texas Parks and Wildlife regulation?"
well, of course,
And I
everybody
said,
has.
"Well, what do you mean?" And they said, "Well, that's a pretty clear question."
Certainly is.
And I said, "Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Back when I was younger and wasn't so smart.
Yeah.
But I've changed all my ways."
Yeah.
But they in the lie detector test, they tell you all the questions ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then
That's
they come
a
back.
charger.
They change it.
And they yeah, right.
Yeah.
And of course, that happened.
Yeah,
I won the Dolphin CCA Star Dolphin twice.
Uh-huh.
Won 2 boats here in the last 8 years. But anyhow, we're talking about you,
We didn't come to talk about your history.
right? But anyhow,
Another time.
that's we're getting. Are you able to ready to do this?
I think I'm recording everything
I'm
so
sorry.
far.
Oh, really?
I think so.
that's
I'm
all
just
See?
not
It's
sure
already-
about.
That's
It's
all
already
right. That's
tricked
good.
us.
I'm just not sure about the audio,
Oh,
but it's just automatically
It's
on, is my
automatic.
understanding. So.
well, I'll hush up now.
Well, we
No.
will need to edit things. So, I guess we've talked about a lot. Are there some other questions you have before we get into some of mine?
You know,
Did it-
that's just the names of
Oh,
the,
okay.
all those are way back there.
Yeah.
Were they planning on putting it on the south end?
The south end.
Of that
Yes,
building
sir.
The
there?
south end, in front of the Rams,
Yeah.
right where that concrete is
I
now.
see that slab.
Yeah, it's going to be like
Yeah, I understand.
if that was a community center.
Right.
They're going to put it like over here,
Right.
kind of like that.
And
And then they were going to have a new little roof thing there.
Yeah,
And,
alcove, right.
and right now we got this memorial
Yeah.
over here,
Right.
and we're going to make that bigger and nicer.
I
we
hope so, because I tried.
Yeah, they're not going to take that out.
Yeah.
And they
They're
got
not going to disturb it.
and the garden, the
They're gonna
garden
put in
club people are
fountains.
going to make it nice
Come in
and
and
all
go.
this. And,
You know, the first family that I remember in that building out there was C.J. Loomis.
Yes. They were the second family, I think.
Uh-huh.
I think it was built by Bob Mercer.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to verify
Total-
that at the
total
courthouse yet,
detail,
and
yeah.
I don't know whether they will have a record of it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to verify for sure that it's
Yeah.
a Sears house,
He
but
was,
I'm pretty sure it was a Kit house.
yeah, he was the grocerman here.
Yes, I know.
Where,
And then he sold it to the Gauldings.
Bob Gaulding.
And then to the Harrises.
Yeah.
And then to Georgia.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, let's kind of go back to talk about some of your original days in this town when you first came, why you came.
When my mother had me.
So you were
When
born
did she
here?
come?
Yeah.
When did she
I
come?
was born in Ranches Pass. But, and then she moved me back over here.
When were you born? What
I
year
born
was it?
In April 6th of 24.
Oh, you're young.
Well, happy birthday. You just had a birthday.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that.
I'm older than you are.
She's trying to hit on you.
You're
I
bragging
think.
now.
He's
I
married.
am.
He's married.
Hey.
He's married.
Hey, let me tell you, that's good. I'm glad to see that. If you're older than I am, I'm glad to see you in your health.
You bet.
Because mine is fading.
I've been, except for being in a wheelchair for a while last summer, why, I'm okay.
Yeah, my wife just had a stroke about 4 months ago, and I've been working with her.
I've
Along
been
with myself.
blessed.
Y'all live in Port Aransas now?
Oh, we got a home here, and we got 2 homes up on the Nueces River.
Close to Sweeney Switch.
Yeah,
He used to have a trailer up there for a while.
it's beautiful up there. I enjoy it. Quiet and everything.
Yeah.
Watch my deer out there. And,
How long did you live in Aransas Pass then?
oh, just overnight.
Right. Then she came out here with
Yeah,
you?
brought me out here, yeah.
Wow.
How long had she been here?
I really don't know.
What was her name?
Myrtle Lee, L.W. Dreyer,
What was her maiden name?
Thompson.
Myrtle Lee Thompson.
Yeah.
Was her family from Port Aransas too, around
From
here?
Oklahoma. Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah, Grandpa was a big man. He was about 6'2", weighed about 270, 280.
Wow. Her
Yeah.
grandpa?
Yeah, her
Her
dad.
father.
Okay.
And he laid up on a bed in our house and took about 2 years to pass away.
Tough.
Don't know what he had.
Wow. The
He weighed about 85 pounds when we buried him. But you know, I don't know about it, y'all, but have y'all noticed that when a person goes into death, they go into a fetal position?
When did you come to Port Aransas, or do you remember?
I don't
Do you
remember.
remember? Okay.
Now, Dad was a fisherman and an oysterman, and
Out here?
out here.
Mhm. The oysters were big here at one
Oh
time.
God, yeah, yeah.
Were you raised fishing?
What I raised fishing.
Did you start working with your dad when you were a young
Oh
boy?
yeah,
or-
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We used to commercial fish, and we'd go to the fish house, and the fish house would say, "Well, I got an order for 1,000 pounds of fish. I got 5 of you working for me. Bring me 200 pounds."
Wow.
That's the way they were. And we'd go out there with those cane poles and beat that water to a froth and catch 200 pounds. And then we'd say, "Well, Aunt Irma needs 4 or 5 fish, and Uncle August Myrtle and his brood needs 7 or 8. And we need 5 or 6 at our house." And so by the time we got through, well, we caught a few extra fish.
What kind of fish?
Speckled trout and redfish,
Mhm.
yeah,
on a cane pole.
on a cane pole. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
What kind of bait did you use?
Live shrimp. We caught our own shrimp because you could drag about 15 minutes with a little 10-foot shrimp trawl. You could get a gallon of live shrimp out of the Corpus Christi ship channel. It was about 30 foot deep then. It was a small ship channel. I was talking with my son day before yesterday, I believe it was, and he pushes two 30,000 barrel barges. And he was telling me that for one barge, it takes 67 18-wheeler trucks to carry that much cargo. 67 to 18-wheelers,
Yeah,
you know.
a lot of cargo.
What is your son's name?
On a towboat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Lloyd Joseph.
Lloyd. How many kids do you have?
We had 4, but I lost one when he was a little fella. And we call him Jody.
He's buried here, the little one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
I go see these people at the cemetery when I go walking. I talk to them.
yeah.
Good. Good.
And at Christmas, I put the ones that don't have flowers and stuff. I put flowers on.
What was your dad's name?
Edgar. Everybody called him Ed. When he was a young man, he had his eye put out. But he was hammered on a piece of steel, and it flew up and hit him in the eye. Put his eye out. He'd been here. He was born in Port Lavaca and moved down here.
Oh. Do you have any idea when he moved to Port Aransas?
No, I don't. I think he was married. See, I have 2 stepbrothers in my family that's passed on since. Dennis and Edgar Norris. They were both guides here. But see, I picked up from this guy's business here, and I went to private charters in 1957. That's when I started running all over Florida and the Bahamas and everywhere else.
In '57?
Yeah. And in fact, I think in '57 I was president of the Deep Sea Roundup. I know I was, because either '57 or '58. No, it was '57, because that was the year that we had a blow, and I canceled it at 10:30 that morning. And 4 or 5 more boats went on out anyway, and they got into the sailfish out there. And that night, when they got back, one of the guys' boats sunk. Well, he asked us to postpone the tournament another day. We said, no, we postponed it yesterday so that you wouldn't do this. So you sit there and take care of your boat while we go fishing. You know?
The record I have is the DVC delayed by weather one day in 1981. Would that be?
81?
That's what's in the
No,
see. Some of these records are not right in that book.
No, I wasn't working for her.
Yeah.
I wasn't
See,
this
is where I'm saying some of these records that we have are not right.
Yeah.
This is what's in the one of the books. It says delay in one day in 1981, and this is why I want things set right.
Yeah, but
So
it was 1957 because I was working for Billy Griffith.
It could be typos. I don't know, but that's what's
Yeah,
in the
it
record.
could have been. It could have been another tournament that happened.
Yeah.
It could have been, but like I said, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
you know.
You have to go back to
working
that
for Billy Griffith?
tournament and see
Yeah.
what it's.
You had a boat, big boat, or?
No, I was just 37 foot, but it was a sport fisherman, and I'd fish anywhere from 3 to 6 months out of the year over in Florida and the Bahamas and what have you.
On that boat?
Yeah.
But you still lived at Port A?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Still lived here, but I was going with the job,
Right. Gotcha.
That you talk about pay and stuff. Then it was pitiful compared to what it is now.
What was it like then?
Pay? I was making $500 a month,
Wow.
and that was pretty good money.
Mm-hmm.
I
What-
never had a penny coming to me.
What year was that?
I had it all. It started in '57.
After World War II.
Oh yeah, I was in World War II.
Yeah, so was I.
Oh yeah. What'd you do? Fly to?
I was a nurse.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We had lots of ladies. The reason why I asked flying, is because
Yeah.
there are lots of ladies.
Oh, there are a lot of ladies doing
that ferried
ferrying work.
airplanes from here in the United States to England.
I know that. I knew some of them.
I bet you she didn't.
So you were in
Actually, I
World War
did
II?
know that. I'm a social worker in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And I had a lady in my nursing home that was the first female pilot for the United States Air Force.
Uh-huh.
And she taught people how to fly. She's
Yeah.
an amazing lady.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had to have them. All the boys that we had was overseas. Yeah.
That's my loon.
So you were around 20 then, when
I was
in your
18.
early 20s
I
when
was
you were
18 when I went in.
okay, 18 into.
Yeah.
And you were a pilot?
No, I was. I went into the Coast Guard, and when I got there, the first thing we did, this boy Charlie Teller and I went in together, and they said the fella that was in charge of the Galveston Lifeboat Station where we went in. By the way, there was 72 men at the Galveston Lifeboat Station where there was only supposed to have been 12.
Wow.
Now you talk about pancaked. We were kissing each other.
Get the Galveston
Lifeboat,
lifeboat.
yeah. And it was unbelievable. But anyway, we had watches to pull and all that business. During the day we had work to do. And they took us and said, go out there and build that bow fender for that boat out there. So Charlie said, okay. So here we go. Charlie and I, we go out there and we built a 12-foot long, what they call a bow pudding. It was about this big around. Had chains to go up in the middle, chains on the sides. And then what you do, you put turnbuckles on the sides there, and you raise it up here where you want it, and put a clasp up here to hold it, and leave it there, and then you just start pulling this thing down flat against the bow. And it worked out beautifully.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it was pretty. And so then, I don't know what they done with Charlie, but they sent me out on an old picket boat, and the batteries in it was shot. So we had to leave the engine running all the time. And I got out there alongside of one of those ships, boarding them. We had to inspect every ship that went out and those that came in. And we were busy around the clock, and with that old workboat, So then they called me off of that and had me a job out there for drilling holes in that concrete and putting up pipe and putting barbed wire fence across it so that people couldn't come around it onto the Coast Guard base. All kinds of stuff.
And that
like
was in Galveston.
In Galveston, it's the Galveston.
How
Lifeboat
long were you
Station.
in the service?
Let's see, 3 years, 4 months, and 12 days, 11 and a half hours.
You're not counting, are you?
And then you came back here and immediately started fishing again?
Yeah, that and towboating. I did some towboating for a while.
What year was that now, about when you came back to your fishing and towboating?
Oh, it was, well, let's see, I came back here in, in the summer months, I was going to the University of Houston. During the summer months, I would come back here and take charter parties out of Cricker Matthews' boat. He was a towboat captain over in Corpus, and he had this boat and it wouldn't run, so I went to him and asked him, and I said, hey, Coach, what say you and I make a little bit of money out of this boat that's just laying there? He said, well, that engine's no good. I said, we can fix that engine, if it's just engine that we got to do. Well, you get after it, whatever you got to do, well, you do it. Charge it to my bill up there at Matthews, and
What was his name again? Coat
it was Cricker.
Cricker.
What was his first name? That's all.
Ted or
Cricker Matthews.
Cricker Matthews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Golly, I can't even think of his first name. Hadn't thought of it in a million years. His wife's name was Ruth.
So it's right. It was not. It was right about that time that I guess y'all started. You're probably somewhere around 48, 1948ish.
Well, see, that was in
maybe
that
later.
was in '46 when I started guiding down here in the summer months.
Do you remember who had the idea of this, doing this building? Who started it? Any idea?
Well, Henry Studeman
Henry
was the
Studeman?
one that drew up the plans and everything to
Yeah.
build it.
Well, see, they seem to think Farley was the one that started all this, but it wasn't Farley.
Farley started everything to hear everybody around here say it.
But he wasn't.
He did not.
He didn't.
He did not. Let me
And
tell
I
you
have the
something.
name here, but I can't pronounce it. Who? What was his?
Let me tell you something. The first man that started a tournament here was Grady Consalvin.
That's yeah. It was not Farley.
It
That's
was
in
not
all the
Farley.
records. It says
No,
Farley.
Farley took claim for it because he took claim for everything.
What was his name
Post
again?
on
Grady?
And then well, he was king.
his first name was Grady.
Grady.
Grady Consalvin. Kinsolving.
I have K-I-N.
I know he
Yeah,
he had a
Grady.
boat down here. Him and Ed Tarrant.
in 1932.
Yeah,
This happened. I didn't get that.
yeah. He and Ed Tarrant was down there, and
That surprises you, doesn't it? That Barney Farley did not start.
No, it doesn't
No.
surprise me
No.
because I've
No.
heard that before.
Well, have you?
Oh, really?
I wasn't going
Isn't
to.
that
That was-
that's
it was
interesting?
just like all
Yeah.
of that bull about him bringing the president down there.
Not from Barney.
Hell, he-
That's another thing. Tell me
He
about
didn't
that.
know nothing about that until that man backed into the dock.
Barney Farley took see there I go. With
President Roosevelt.
he took. What's the word I'm looking for? He said he brought him down here.
Yeah,
Oh.
And he did.
yeah.
Oh, he didn't. He
He
didn't
took
bring.
credit for it.
No,
See, that's
he
that
didn't
him.
bring him down here.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Who brought him here? I think Bill Ellis did. See, Bill Ellis used to be in the Navy. He was a lieutenant in the Navy. I don't know whether y'all ever been to that place of his up there, the Tarpon Inlet, that 11-foot white bear was up there. He shot one up there in Alaska and had it there for a while.
Oh.
Big old white bear.
The story I heard was that Elliot came to fish here first, and he got his dad to come.
Yeah,
Who?
It-
Who was?
Elliot
his
Roosevelt
son, President.
to go was impressed. Had a great fishing trip.
Yeah.
He got his dad
See,
to
they
come down.
anchored the Potomac
Mhm.
right up there in the ship, and the right across from the lighthouse. And the boats that were picked up through the hotel
Mhm.
went up there alongside and picked up the parties. And
Mhm.
some of the parties were not fishermen; they were guards
Mhm.
in the boats.
That figured.
Yeah.
No,
All
they're
around.
not going to let any president
A friend of
wander
mine just
around
gave me
without a little few
copies
of
of
it.
these. They were in some old magazines he had, so he printed some up.
Interesting.
Do you know who this is?
And he couldn't wander around anyway. He had to be lifted from boat to boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looked like.
Yeah, a friend of mine just went through his old stuff and he made me a whole bunch of copies of those. And I don't know who that is.
I swear. I don't either.
Can
Probably
you tell
somebody
us?
the president brought with him.
Can you tell
No
us
idea.
some of the rules of the early fishing contests and how they worked and things like that? You know, now
Oh,
they.
God, they were strung out in such manner that I don't remember exactly how it was done. They gave so many points per inch, you know, and of the fish. To be exact, you know, it's been so long since I've fooled with it.
Sure.
And of course, I've had a double heart bypass too, and that didn't help any.
Yeah.
Oh, golly.
No, I had one where it
Some
says.
of the, when you were telling me when that I guess Studeman was the guy that had the plans for the community
He drew
center.
the plans up.
He drew the
in
plans
his
up.
own mind, you know.
And
He figured what we needed up there, and that's the way he put it, you know.
What was the initial purpose of the center?
Of the gods, of the building.
For the building?
Well, to have the tournaments in,
Social center.
and where they'd have plenty of room,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for covered,
Sure.
you know, so they don't have to worry about bad weather or anything. And we worked hard at that,
was that always in the same location?
always right there.
The center.
It's been a good building. It's been a good building.
What about those oak wood planks you told me
Oh
about?
my God, those things
Where did the oak come from?
I don't remember where it came from, but it was hard as nails. We had to get Henry to go to town and bring some drill bits. He brought a dozen of them, and 2 drills, one for Shorty and one for me, and we put that floor down, boy, like you'd never seen after that, because all of this thumb here was bleeding all over the floor, you know, from trying to drive a nail into that hardwood, and it wouldn't go. A lot of times they'd bend, we'd have to pull them out, you know. And finally, Shorty and I said, look, he was all bleeding all over the place over there, and we said, look, Henry, this ain't gonna work, man. Go get us some drill bits and a drill. So get the drill a little bit smaller than a nail. So he took a nail with him and he went down there to Matthews and bought a dozen of them, brought them back, and then we got busy, boy. Zzz, 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 you know, just.
So do y'all know the people he's talking about? Henry and
Henry
Shorty?
Studeman.
Henry Studeman and
Henry
Shorty.
Studeman.
The names
Shorty.
are familiar to me.
Is that the Shorty's
Red's-
bar?
No.
Different
This
Shorty.
was a fishing guide named Shorty Smith, and we called him Shorty. His
So
name
who
was-
else worked on that
Charles.
building?
There was a bunch of them. We had a picture of it, and I had my wife there looking yesterday, and she
And
couldn't
she's trying
find
to
it.
find it.
I've seen a picture with some people with
It's
Ted
in-
Matthews and some
It's
other
in the
people up on
record
the
book.
roof.
I have it in
And
the
in
record book,
construction.
but I don't know which
Was
year.
it Boatman and also
Oh,
other people
just
from the
about
community?
more or less, yeah. Yeah, it was the guides, all up there on their days off, you know, or when they didn't have a charter. See, my dad worked back during the time when they rode skiffs for $2 a day.
Mhm.
And Mr. Mercer and that fell off the corner of the building down there. Gee whiz. Anyway, he had a one-cylinder engine
Yeah, you pull the
and
skips out.
pulled 10, 11, 12 skiffs at a time out there.
I've seen a
2
picture,
bits
seen a
apiece.
picture of that too.
Yeah.
You were asking about the rules and regulations.
Imagine that
and
was
this
when they were
picture.
building the jetties. The guys that were working on the jetties probably didn't have much more than 2 bits to spend.
Let me read this about the contest. It says, preparations for this big contest receive detailed attention by contestants and spectators. Equipment and supplies must be double checked and boats get the share of time allotted. That was the rules and regulations at that time. This is
For the first tournament?
well, this is 1948.
1948.
This is
You-
1948.
Was the deep sea round, well, the Tarpon Rodeo and then Tarpon Rodeo, deep sea roundup, was that? Do you think that was the first, the
That was the
oldest
beginning.
tournament on
That
the
was-
whole Gulf Coast?
Yeah, it is.
Earlier than
Yeah.
Port Isabel
Yeah.
and earlier than
Yeah.
Galveston.
See, Port Isabel and them begged us to come down
This is where they're
down
lined
there
up for the.
and assist them, you know, bring them more boats so they'd have where they could have more people, you know, in the tournament. Yeah.
So you'd started earlier, and then they started
there's another
asking
thing I
you
want
to
to
come
say.
down and help them get their tournament
Yeah.
started.
Get 'em
Even
rolling.
Galveston too, huh?
No, I didn't. We didn't fish in Galveston, you know.
You think you had a tournament here even before
Oh,
they had
yeah.
one in Galveston?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Lord, yeah.
You know, see, that's kind of an important thing as far as the
Yes.
significance of the tournament in Port Aransas that makes it unique in Texas,
Yeah,
and that can help us get more funds
right.
that
the
way.
Take
oldest.
care of the building.
It's the
Yeah.
Because
oldest.
when you can show it's not just local importance, but it also has regional and
Spread out.
statewide, then
Well, I'd like Port O'Connor, you know. What was it, when it was there, was it 58, 59, something like that? I forgot what year they started, but they, what's that fella's name that owns it?
not Fondren.
Yeah, Walter
Walter
Fondren.
Fondren, back when they started Poco Bueno.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he come down here and begged a bunch of us guys down here that was on these private yachts, you know, to talk our owners into coming up there and fishing it in his tournament to get it started. And about 3 or 4 years after he got it started and it got big, then he didn't need us anymore. You know.
Yeah.
So it's things like that that make you realize that you'd started things here,
Oh, sure.
tournament here
ahead
first.
Ahead of everybody else. Yeah.
I noticed this article says Port Aransas Boat Towners Association.
That's probably a typo.
Oh, Boat Owners Association.
owners?
Boat
Mhm.
Owners
Yeah.
Association
Yeah.
instead of boatmen.
Yeah.
Boat Owners
But I was
Association.
interested because this
Mhm.
man, the air, he flew over trying to get the best
What-
place.
About the community center, was anything else that kind of jumps out at you that was unique about building it when you built it? Things that happened, kind of materials, anything funny or
Was it all new
y'all
material?
would never
No.
drink.
It wasn't
while
all
you-
new material.
No, God. No, there wasn't no drinking going on. What are you talking about, man?
You're talking to some boatmen.
Boatmen don't drink.
No. I'm ashamed of you.
Yeah, I remember Ginger said that one of the first coatings of paint was the ladies' civic club or something kind of helped back in '78 or '9 or
No,
something.
I did it. I paid Roger Miller. They talked. Even then, they're talking about tearing it down.
Yeah.
In
And
'78, '79, around there.
I don't know exactly, but I was on the civic center board,
Yeah, and moving it, wasn't it?
and they were going to do all sorts of stuff. And they said, "Well, we just don't have any money." And I said, "Well, I'll give the first $50 for paint." And Roger Miller said, "I'll give another $50." And that's what bought the paint.
Yeah.
And they painted it. Then they decided not to tear it down, but they were going to tear it down at that time. And I moved here permanently in '79, but I started coming here at '65, so it had to be after '79 that they were going to tear it down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I'll," and of course I was kind of poor then because I had just retired, and my ex-husband had just retired, and so money was, but I said we gave the first money to paint it, and they painted it. They painted over everything. I mean, but
Oh, yeah.
but they were going to tear it down even then.
Yeah, and that was also, they had planned on moving it too at one time.
Well, I think the
To
fact
another
that we
place.
move that other building over there will secure it.
Hopefully
Yeah.
it will.
Anchor it.
It will anchor it.
Yeah.
Because what we see is that will be the entrance to the old town.
Yeah.
And we're going to make a concerted effort.
And of course,
to-
that bond
to-
election they
to
had,
keep
they definitely told them they did not
sharks
want that
and
moved.
high rises out of Old Town.
Yeah.
And there'll be a walking tour that leaves from there that goes out to all the places in the city.
And the center will still be open for the boatmen to meet
Oh,
in
yeah.
it, or
Oh, yes.
people to play bingo or whatever.
Well, and last night
Sure.
they went around it. There was
It
probably
won't be
30 or
closed.
40 people in this room. People from all around town, from different churches. There was 2 or 3 boatmen in there, and all different kinds of groups. And it was kind of a little exercise, you know. But when it was time to talk about a theme for the museum, this is the whole museum. They went around all the tables, and I'll tell you, 90% of everybody in that room said fishing.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's kind of an obvious thing, but
It's
still,
the only thing
it
that
was
kept,
good to
kept
hear it.
Port
Yeah,
Aransas
it
from
was good.
sinking.
Everybody in
Out
that
of sight.
room,
Yeah.
even though some people maybe had a focus on the historical things about living in the area, or some people might have been more involved with the garden club and different, but they all knew that fishing was the
You didn't have the bingo
main
ladies
thing.
there, did you?
The pardon?
That's another thing I came across, the bingo ladies. Nobody,
Who
for
are the bingo
years,
ladies?
nobody could use community center except the bingo ladies.
Yeah.
And I used to be president of the Creative Arts Society, and we had several art shows, and we could not ever have it on Saturday because they had bingo.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Oh no.
and we could have it on Friday. But like I say, I